make sure I have the questions up, which I do. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Asha Aiello, and I am the WorkReady Program Director at the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce. We're doing some career exploration today in Marketing 2020, and we get to hear from Kayla Viramontes, a community member and business owner in Gresham. Her company's name is The Bold Orange. A little bit about Kayla. Thank you for coming and being with us today. She specializes in bold design and loves to test the limits to propel her clients and their businesses further. Great design, compelling marketing, and high quality printing are crucial to brand success. She helps clients foster their brand and create eye-catching marketing materials through both print and digital media. The very first piece of marketing she ever created was a billboard in California, and she was hooked. Design is an obsession for her. The way she can create emotion, drama, love, loyalty, all through design is absolutely thrilling. She's been in the print industry for 12 years, rendering ideas into images and images into printed materials is definitely what makes her giddy. She works with her clients from the very first design concept to the final piece. She has an awesome husband, a beautiful little boy, lives in Gresham, Oregon, and loves playing with her pups and all the Northwest has to offer. So Kayla, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything else you want to say about your background, or kind of maybe talk a little bit about why, like your career path on how you got to design said billboard, and then what got you interested in this.
Yeah, and I guess I should update that because I've actually been in the industry for 16 years now. So my beginnings, hi, nice to meet all of you. My beginnings, I started the design industry kind of in high school. I was eligible to graduate early by accident, and I didn't want to leave high school early. I wanted to have the whole senior year experience. So I decided to take a blow-off class, which I thought it was, a design class. And I really didn't think that there was going to be much to it. And I literally was just in love with it. I picked it up really quickly. And then when I graduated high school, I decided to enter college and go there for design. I was bored out of my mind. And so after the first year of college, I dropped out. And I decided to move across the country. So I was a born and raised Texan, and I decided that I loved Oregon. I came here to visit. I was here for 2 weeks, and I decided to move back. My father lives here, and so he got me a job for another designer, and I was kind of working under her, designing billboards in the Northwest all over for a pretty prominent billboard company in the Dalles. And yeah, I just kind of stayed here, and I started working in the industry and fell in love with it, learning and growing as I went.
I think that's great. One of the reasons I know that you and I liked your story and I wanted to share it, not only because it's, it's a female-owned business, it's very exciting, and you're young and passionate, but also because I want people to hear that you don't have to always go through this traditional career path to make a career work. Sometimes on the job is just as good. The vocations, the trades are just as good. But in your case, if you knew what you wanted and loved, and why, frankly, I mean, a degree is great if that's what you need. I definitely encourage doctors and lawyers getting degrees. I don't want to go to Joe's, phlebotomy and medical tires. But I think it's important for people to hear that you can love something and be really excited about it and just start right away, especially if you don't necessarily know what you want to do when you grow up. Even if you do know what you want to do, sometimes that practical experience is, I think, much more helpful than maybe spending 4 years in a lot of student debt.
Yeah, and then find that you hate it.
How long did you work for the other designer before you struck out on your own?
I only worked for her for a little under a year, and I've always had a hunger for knowledge, so I outgrew her very fast. I was very appreciative for what she did for me, but she was okay with status quo, and I've never been that way. And so I was, going to work and doing all the things, and then I would go home and I would literally just play with the art programs, and I would read books and listen to podcasts and all the things. And this was before that was a really big thing to do, was outside education. And so, so I stayed there. And then when I was 19, I had $50 to my name. I was super broke. I had 3 jobs besides her. And I was living in Hood River at the time. And I was just so frustrated with the way things were going. So I took that $50 and I got a business license. Go big or go home. So
That's incredible. I think too, again, one of the reasons that I wanted you to share your story was also because I feel like sometimes we wait or we think that we have to tell ourselves we have to get to a place or be a thing. And I always encourage having savings for those of you that's a good thing. As an adult, I can say that. But I think at some point, at 19, especially when you know that there's something you want to do, and also being a lifelong learner too, pursuing that extra knowledge. I know I wasn't into podcasts when they started getting hot, but I definitely am now. And I think there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of empowerment to share what you know, right? Like if you don't have to be an expert, you can share what you know and what you do. There's a clothing company out of Salem called H&H Outfitters. And they did a podcast for a while, and it's literally just kind of about life. It's these two brothers that love to be outdoors, and they were like, we don't have anything especially special to share, but we know what we're doing, right? And so that's really the exciting part as well. So what motivates you about your field and industry? We talked a little bit in your bio about the fact you love bringing things to life. So tell us what it exactly is that the Bold Orange does. And, marketing is such a big term. So let's drill that down a little.
So a lot of businesses you find, especially around here, they tend to specialize on one piece of marketing. So whether that's design, printing, social media, or marketing. So when I first started, I was I was a designer only. And I started kind of learning print industry, and it's very like rags to riches, annoying in a way. I literally there was a print store owner down the street, and I was like, I will sweep your floors and clean your machines if you teach me how the print process works. And so I did just that, and I learned about letter presses all the way to Heidelbergs, which are huge, like football-sized print presses. And I was just enthralled with the fact that I could take an idea from my head, put it into an art program, and then it would shoot out of a printing press, and it was a real thing. And that's one of this day, my favorite thing about working with people is seeing their eyes light up when they actually see good stuff, especially with all these online retailers that aren't quite as quality. So they love that, and I love that too. And so one of the big things about this industry that I absolutely love, because I get really bored really easily, is it's always changing. It's always growing. You have to have that growth mindset of wanting to learn, because as soon as Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat gets their algorithms and all the things down, they immediately change it again. And so you have to constantly be in that growth thing. And there's also the opportunity for growth. So you can start from the bottom and work your way up. And also my third point is there's a zero ceiling. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You keep rising through the ranks, and you either own your own agency or you can go up to a management job, those kinds of things. And the potential is limitless, really.
I like that you pointed out both. I think I have great admiration for people like you that want to run their own businesses, because that's weirdly never been something I wanted to do, but I love supporting others that are, if that makes any sense. I think it's really important. I think frankly that small businesses and medium-sized businesses drive the economy. And there's plenty of stats to back that up, but I think that that's important, right? If you want to get into an agency and work your way up. I mean, Wyden and Kennedy had Nike for a long time and still have Nike. I mean, can you imagine coining the term just do it? You'd be set the rest of your life. So,
and the Nike logo only costs $35.
What was that?
The Nike logo only cost him $35.
Whew. I heard of a local hockey team that was a bunch of veterans that wanted to use the Wounded Warrior brand, and they wanted to charge them $100,000. Times change. Exchange. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's room for entrepreneurs, and I think that's exciting. And plus, as an entrepreneur, you can get to do it the way you want, right? You get to dictate how that goes. And then imagine in the world of digital marketing, which I think people don't look at influencers and Instagram. I think the world has changed so much that those are legit ways of advertising now. Those are how you reach.
Marketing is one of the biggest forms of marketing right now. It is. It's definitely, it's huge. And influencer marketing has been around forever. It would just used to be celebrities and sports athletes and things like that. Now it is regular people changing their lives just by being really good at social media and being kind of pretty or kind of funny or whatever their little knack is. So it's amazing.
I've been lucky to watch. My husband uses influencers a lot through his day-to-day, and so learning kind of his side of it, where how you pick an influencer, how you contract with it, it's very fascinating. Everybody thinks it's this like simple process where it's like, oh, that person's pretty, let's hand them a knife. Like that's not the way that works at all.
Totally different.
So I think, you know, we talk a lot about like, oh, so-and-so's an influencer. And I think to know what that really means is,
Exactly.
you know, they build and it's a lot of work, right? To build a platform like that, to really have people pay attention to you and to listen to what you say.
Exactly. It is.
So the Bold Orange does print and digital. What do you do in the world of digital?
So in the world of digital, we do a lot of social media. So we have two different types of social media. We either do curation, where we curate the content and basically tell the client what and how to do it, and then they do it. And that's a monthly kind of subscription. And then our management is a monthly subscription as well, where we just take over and we just pretend to be those people online. And there's actually some Gresham people around here that you probably have no idea is actually me. So
which actually that means you're doing a heck of a job, because if they don't know it's you and it's true to that brand. I had somebody approach me for content the other day on something completely separate, and I was like, it's not my job to create content for you. Like, I'm sorry, you know, I support your brand. I think that's great, but you know, unless you want to fork over a contract, it's not my job to create content for you. You know, that's why agencies like yours exist. So it's like, okay, if you don't know what to do, which so many people don't, it's a big job, right? Creating content online, staying fresh and relevant, it's a big job. So that's why people like yourself exist. And I can't imagine, I'm sure you probably have some very entertaining stories.
Oh yeah. We basically get paid to be on social media all day, which sounds really awesome, but it can be a struggle sometimes.
It's I think a lot, you know, it's exhausting. You know, from my knowledge, and plus you're monitoring that as your business. It's not like it's just like, hey, it's Kayla and this is my livelihood, this is my client's livelihood, right?
Exactly. And we are in so much control of their reputation, especially with what's going on in the world right now on multiple faucets. Like we're the front lines and we better get it right or some serious stuff can go down. So
I talked to my chiropractor actually, who was, you know, when the Black Lives Matter thing got kicked off this year back in May, I believe it was. And, you know, talking to him about how he's like, I'm a chiropractor. We have to represent ourselves a certain way. And there's certain stances that you need to take. And sometimes I think we all consume social media a lot, but we don't think about what the other side of that is as your everyday business owner, to have to respond to every movement out there every time in a way that's going to be palatable.
And be afraid of, like, quite frankly, losing clients, which from a heart perspective, you're like, well, I don't want those people. But from a finance perspective, that might not be possible all the time.
And being authentic too, right? It's important to be authentic and stay true to your business. But if you literally are John's Tire and Automotive, like, do you need to take a stand on these things? Is that important for you? Or should you stay true to being like, we sell tires, you know, and that's it. And that's okay if that's your stand. It's very, let me say, I have great admiration and don't envy yourself and other business owners that have to navigate through that. So,
for sure.
So we talked about the fact that you had your design classes in high school and you did 1 year of college. What is kind of the recommended education level? What would you recommend as getting into this industry?
So it really depends. So you brought up Wieden and Kennedy, and I always joke that I am the affordable version of them for small business owners, because they do everything just like I do. So if I were to go, and I've been in business almost 14 years, so if I were to go to Wieden and Kennedy and try to get like a senior management marketing thing, I probably would be turned away, even though I'm literally doing it and I have over 400 clients. Because they really care about education. So, but it also depends on, I mean, you can talk your way into anything, you fake it till you make it. If you're charismatic enough, you might just get past that process and still get in on a job like that. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you're looking at like Wieden Kennedy versus an agency that you own, like me, versus freelance, it kind of really depends. So I started off as a freelancer where you just take jobs here and there, but you don't really go after clients for a long-term project type thing. An agency is going to be more of like a team of people coming together and going after clients that you stick with and you do all of their stuff. And then of course, White & Kennedy is an agency. So but that would be like you working for an agency. So if you're going to work for an agency, that is one of the first things they're going to ask for, because everyone loves an education. However, if you have proven experience, which as a young person is hard to gain, you have a better chance as far as getting past that without an education. So there's design degrees, there's marketing degrees. I hired someone who had a marketing degree, and I found out it was virtually useless for what we needed it for. So I would really talk to other marketers, including myself if you want, about what they really are looking for. Because like you said, there are different types of marketing, and realistically, you really want to study the sales process and how it works. It hasn't changed. Realistically, people are still human beings. You're going after a human, not a business. So there's that emotion piece that's always going to be there. Doesn't matter gender, race, age, it's always there. And you want to learn, color theory, all those kinds of like little pieces. If you learn that independently or through school, you're going to be that much further, because you understand the end result that person's trying to attain. So it really just depends on what your end goal is.
I've worked in workforce development and business relations for longer than I'd really care to admit at this point in my life. And I have to say, yeah, it's interesting because that's the chicken or the egg, right? It's we want experience, but okay, well, I'm literally fresh out of college. I'm literally fresh out of, an associate's degree. Like, I don't know how you expect me to get experience if I won't get hired. And knowing what you want to do, I know I felt like today years old when I went and did big brand marketing at Kaylas and ended up learning about buyer profiles and, demographics, and asking questions like, why don't we do marketing to women? Well, you know what? I'm going to just show you right now, the numbers for Kaylas marketing to women aren't great. And that's okay. That's their buyer profiles, right? But there's a reality to it that you have to know. Some of it's practical and some of it's not. And that's
a lot.
Definitely.
It's a lot,
Definitely.
But it's fun. And if you have a passion for it, you're just going to want to learn it. And that you kind of need that for this industry.
We segged a little bit into this, but my next question is actually kind of like, what options are there to get started? And what I'm hearing from you is a lot of interviewing, a lot of figuring out what it is you want to start, where you want to start.
Yeah. So what I would do is what I did, working under somebody or doing an internship. Internships can get business owners in trouble very quickly. And so you want someone who is very like I'm like that. You want someone who's very interested in helping people understand this is what they truly want versus getting free work out of you. So that business owner has to have that at the forefront of their thing, because if you find someone who really loves this industry and has a passion for it, that is who you want. It doesn't, like, honestly, talent and skill aside, that's what you need, because of the fact that it is always changing. There's a lot to learn constantly, all those things. So if that person has that passion, the rest of that can be trained. And so working under someone, that will help them see if you're a candidate to move up in their agency. And also, it will help you really understand if you even like this. I had an intern who thought she wanted to be an artist, and she absolutely hated it. Like, because she thought that she would just get to sit and draw all day, and it's not like that. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. It's very technical. And so she was like, I'm really sorry, but I don't actually like this. Like, I thought I would. And I'm like, that's okay. That's exactly why we did this, to see if this is something that you want. So that's a really good, obviously, college, and you can apply for jobs, or and you're probably going to start at the bottom, which is okay, because you do want to kind of learn all the different things that go into what runs with an agency or designer. And then obviously trial and error. That's how I did it, is, trying and then failing, and then trying and then failing, and sometimes succeeding, mostly failing, and then getting it right.
I think two key things that I pulled out of that is, one, no, it's just as valuable, and I don't think we value this enough. It's just as valuable to find out what you don't want to do. I used to tell my Job Corps kids that all the time, and they'd be like, oh, I hated doing that service learning project, or I hated that. And I'm like, cool. And then you learn what you don't like to do. And they're like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm like, oh, but it does. It very much makes sense.
Very much. And like you said, there's so many different jobs you can do at an agency. You might absolutely hate design, but you love being in the press room, or you love going out and marketing to clients. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's all these different things. So kind of going and playing in all the different arenas might help you like eliminate those that you don't like, so you can find out what you really want. And then once you are done interning or whatever you start off doing, then you can actually go for the job that you want.
I think again, what like out of all, what you said too, is not being afraid to start at the bottom. I think it's really key for people to hear you're not going to walk in with an education or without an education and be able to do the thing. You're going to have to start someplace. And for you, that meant, look, I need to learn how to letterpress. I need to learn how printing presses work. Like, that means I'll sweep your floors, like, just teach me. and we've lost, I think, a lot of that. It's important to understand that, like, it's okay to start at the bottom, and sometimes that means you'll get to learn a lot more. I did an internship with Special Olympics Oregon. That's how I fell in love with nonprofit work. Thought I was going to do an internship at our physics department at Oregon State, and that changed very quickly because, oh my goodness, that would have been a horrible match for me. I fell in love. We did anything and everything, from getting coffee to, we ran the Trailblazers, the 3-on-3 tournament Kidsville, when it was still, it might have been Nike, might have been Adidas. I don't remember who was sponsoring it, but I learned more by doing everything, because we were expected to do everything as interns. Then it kind of started getting you, what do I really want to do? Well, I loved communications. I loved working with the families, I'm an extrovert by nature. So that's really important too, is knowing it's okay to start at the bottom. And sometimes that's the best place to be, because you get to see the ins and outs of the day to day.
And then when you get to the top, you appreciate the people below you, and then you become a good leader and a good boss. And realistically, a true successful agency, everybody works hand in hand. The designers work with the printers, the marketers work with the printers, everybody works together. And that's just like how branding a company is. Everything has to be succinct. And if it's not, then you're going to lead to either issues in the agency, or you're going to have inconsistent marketing and you're going to get fired by the client. So, it's kind of one of those things where you don't like it when you're in the grunt phase, but once you get past it, you're really appreciative of those times where you were sweeping the floor and picking up all the trimmings from the printer and things like that. So.
Yeah, I think, I was going to agree, and then I lost. I am agreeing. There was a nugget in there that I wanted to grab, and right out of my brain it went. I don't think I had enough coffee today. So we talked a little bit about it just because of the nature of the conversation. But what skills and attributes would you say are important, whether you're in middle school or high school or exploring career options? What skills and attributes do you think make somebody successful? We talked about lifelong learning. We talked about the fact that you need to be flexible. What else? Like, either personality traits or classes that you thought were important?
Right. So I think a really big thing is open to change. Like I said, especially when it comes to social media, which is huge in marketing. You're not going to be able to avoid that. It's just the way it is. It's going to change rapidly. And then also too, there's a lot of explaining what Snapchat is and why you use it, explaining what TikTok is, explaining all these things, and the possibility, because the client doesn't get it. If you don't get it, they're not going to get it. And so you have to learn TikTok, whether you want to use it, which most people watching do, but you have to learn these programs regardless. And you have to somehow find the benefits of them, as well as, like I said, the buying process and the way that people work emotionally and how they buy things doesn't change. But the way that, the etiquette of marketing and all that is going to change constantly. And every generation does it differently. So that's a huge one. Taking criticism well. I'm not good at that sometimes. I don't think a lot of people are, but I will send a brand concept to a client, and they will actually, I'm doing one right now for a local fitness company. And they were like, to be honest, we don't really love them, any of them, all 7. And so I'm like, cool, thanks for the feedback. Let's start over. Sometimes you just completely miss the mark, and you have to be able to let it brush off and start again. People that are successful in this industry tend to be a little more sensitive in a good way, and they have a harder time taking criticism. So you have to kind of be to people in that way, but it very much benefits you if you can learn that behavior. You like to be learning all the time. That's a huge one. Like I said, you have to be open to that. And you like technology. Technology is a huge part of what I do. even in the printing part of my business, it's all about technology. I have a $50,000 digital printing press in the next room, and when it breaks, I don't want to have to call my printer people to come and fix it. I just like to try and do that. So learning how the machine works, it really works to help to troubleshoot those little issues. And then also the best attribute I would say has made me the most successful is being well-rounded. So trying to like learn all the things, because then you kind of make yourself indispensable to that company or your clients, because they're just like, but you know all the things. Like, you help me in all these different ways. And it's just like slowly over time learning the different avenues that you can do in this industry. So being well, and that's honestly with any industry you go in, if you can kind of know a little bit about a lot of things, you make yourself very, treasured among the management team.
Yeah, and I do know, having hired graphic design artists in the past, there's very much a connection. You can choose to specialize. I know that very much. Like, you could very much just be digital marketing only. But I've noticed that even if you tend to work with like-minded people that are like, oh, I'm not a graphic designer, but let me refer you to a graphic designer. And that's that team mentality that you come back to. I did remember what I was going to say. The sales and when you were talking about working together, whether you're part of an agency or not, I know that in someone I know, when they got hired for a marketing job, the key directive from his director was, you need to work with sales. Marketing and sales have to work together, because if they don't, this machine doesn't work.
I always say that marketing and sales are BFFs. Yeah. So they're not the same thing. A lot of people think they are. They're not. But they need to have a very strong connection and an ongoing relationship. Otherwise, one or the other is going to fail. They have to work together, and the strategies are different, but they have to, like, flow nicely together. It's very, very,
very much. The salespeople at that particular position, because it was successful, because that was a directive, and that was one directive that they all embraced. They look forward to seeing what's coming out from marketing, because they feel like it's one more tool in their toolbox to be able to sell. And when you feel as sales that you have this team that's giving you what you need to be able to make it fun and edgy and unique and make that sale a lot easier, it's really fascinating.
Well, and one of the pieces with the well-roundedness is, when I started, like I said, I was designing billboards. And billboards, you have about 6 seconds to grab that person as they're driving past. You can't put a lot of stuff on it. And designing something, these are giant. They don't look that big until you're like under them and you're watching them put this final scrim thing on there. So when you're designing at that scale, and then you try to design a business card that's like this, it is quite different. And so just that piece alone, from going from really, really big to really, really small, that is a talent. And that is one part of the well-rounded, is really thinking about how can I flex my muscle in other areas, because like you said, specializing in certain key aspects, like specializing in billboard design versus specializing in small print. We also call it large format in the industry. And then specializing, like for printing, you could do screen printing, like hoodies, shirts, that kind of thing, or you could do paper products. I do both because I'm crazy, but it's fun. And so like having that kind of well-rounded education of how it all works together is super important.
I'm with you. I get mad when we use, like, when I see pictures that are pixelated, I'm like, come on, people. Like, everybody has like a 15 megapixel cell phone at this point. Like, we can do this. The pixelation drives me crazy. I'm like, come on, folks.
Professionalism drop. It's like, and that person sucks.
Not even sucks so much. It's just, you can tell, when you have a grasp on technology and when you want to use the right photos and sizing and layout and it's amazing with the amount of social media that we all do, that with some people still can't quite, and it's totally understandable if nobody's helped you, right? Like, that's why agencies like yours are so important, is sometimes it's such a relief to hand that over and say, here's my company, here's my brand, right?
Exactly.
I need you to help me like shine it up a little bit, or it like help me with the gram or whatever. Like, it's very, very real. So
everyone loves the gram.
Yeah, I think love is
love and hate.
A love-hate relationship, right? So looking back, what is your best piece of advice for a student that's looking to get involved? We talked about, the attributes and the skills and all those things, but just like what you, maybe wish you would have known back then.
So I would say the biggest thing is start learning now. If it's even something remotely possible for you, or you have any interest at all, look at the theories of certain aspects, depending on which part of my talk you like, design, print, whatever, the strategies that it takes to get those things accomplished. And then also, like, a big thing for printing and design is the Adobe programs. You will have to use Adobe. Most of these schools are already using it. Some colleges teach it wrong, sorry, but it's true. You're going to learn InDesign is going to be your biggest friend, Illustrator and Photoshop. Those are the three that you'll use the most. And so learning just how things work, how, like I said, the sales process, all that, like, just start learning now as much as you can. And then also reach out to local businesses. A lot of them are able to let you pick their brain. I do that quite often. I've done a few of these little things like this where I talk to kids who are considering this field. But reach out to me. I'm cool. You can pick my brain anytime. And just getting to know, like, how they did things, what failures they had, and what they learned from that. I have made a 1.2 billion mistakes in my business. And the fact that I'm even in business still is a huge thing, because it's really, really competitive in this industry. And so I'm very open and vocal about my struggles and my successes, and finding people like that you can talk to and really just decide, do I want to own my own agency? Okay, great. How do I do that? Do I want to work for someone? What does that look like? How important is education? Where should I go? Like, those kinds of things, they're going to be a wealth of knowledge, and most of them are going to be open to talking to you.
I think we all learn a lot from people that have failed just as much as they succeeded. And I think the attitude of mentorship, even though it's a little more difficult in the area of COVID, because you can't, like, it's harder to sit down and have a cup of coffee, right, or whatever, but mentorship is really important. And then just local businesses too. I think it's easy to overlook it, not because we don't find value, but you sometimes forget that here's the shingle, and then there's a whole person with whole experiences behind that shingle. And a lot of times it can be intimidating to talk to business owners, because you look at them and you're like, oh, they're totally doing it right. Well, yeah, but I'm sure you've done a few things wrong along the way, and that's just as valuable. So
and too, honestly, small business owners, they probably are working 10 times harder than a larger brand, because they don't have that trust factor immediately. Like, if you see a Nike shoe, it's going to last a certain length of time. It's going to have that clout behind it of popularity. There's all these different things. But if you look at an independent shoe, a smaller brand shoe, they're not going to automatically have that trust factor. So they're having to work 10 times harder to gain every single client they get. And so the small business owner, they've been through not being able to afford their lease, not being able to pay their employees, not being able to handle, when clients outburst in their store, whatever those, like, little things are that kind of, the roadblocks. They've had to do those probably on their own with a small team, or just themselves. So yeah, definitely reaching out to people in your industry that are local. And you also they might offer you an internship right then and there. You never know. So yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kayla, for your time today. I really sincerely appreciate it. We'll put this recording up on the Gresham Chamber website for everybody to take a look at. I've gotten a couple emails of people wanting to see what's going on. So thank you again. I may hit you up to do this again early next year. Maybe follow up and do a little more in depth. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and thank you again.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.